As an equity analyst covering the auto industry, I'm often struck by the idea that the beating heart of almost all cars and trucks on the road today, the internal combustion engine, hasn't fundamentally changed since the 1800s. Sure, today's cars are safer, more comfortable, more powerful, and we love our cars. But astonishingly, they're still based on Victorian-era technology that is an increasingly visible source of greenhouse gas emissions. General Motors Chair and CEO, Mary Barra, is on a mission to change that. Cars and trucks are in Mary's DNA, both as an engineer and a second-generation GM lifer. In January 2021, Mary announced GM would transition to an all-electric fleet by 2035, an audacious goal with no shortage of complexity. I just had to get Mary's take on the scope of the disruption for both GM and the industry. So I went to the Motor City to sit down with Mary at GM's headquarters to discuss these issues, transformational leadership, and her vision for the future of mobility. Mary, thank you.
Oh, it's great to be here. And I'm so excited to talk about everything going on in our industry.
There's a famous old saying about your company, as goes GM, goes the nation. Is that still true today?
I think any company has to earn its way, but I think our industry is still very important. And I think General Motors, as the largest U.S. automaker, we play a very important role because really this industry built the middle class. Mm-hmm. We are proud of the good paying jobs that we provide, and I'm excited right now to be adding to them as we bring cell manufacture to this country. Mm-hmm. So I think along with many industries, the automotive industry is very important. And I think we learned through the pandemic, making things matters.
Yes.
And I'm proud we make things.
So Mary, you led the industry in announcing the exit or decommissioning from the internal combustion engine business, targeting 2035. You must have got some pushback.
Actually, no. That announcement was incredibly well received. And as important it was externally for us to put a stake in the ground and say that's when we believe and we're going to work toward and are putting concrete plans in place to achieve all light-duty vehicles will be EVs by 2035. Mm-hmm. The benefit is it helped everyone in the company get aligned because, there was, of course, conversation of can it happen? How fast will it happen? Here's this prediction, here's that prediction. And when we said, look, we want to lead it and we think we have the ability to lead it with the broad portfolio of vehicles we have for different price points, different segments, and we're gonna go for it. It frankly has caused more and more people. We saw our applications to join General Motors go up. As well as I got a lot of notes from employees saying, I'm so proud to work for a company that is set this goal.
Wow. But Mary, how do you exit a business that today accounts for basically 100% of your profit and cash flow? How do you do that?
Well, we've got 14 years. And I think when you look at the fact that we'll have more than 30 vehicles globally that are EV by 2025, we have aggressive plans after mm-hmm. that. And our whole vision, the whole time we've been working on EVs, is to change the customer experience. So owning an EV is a delight.
So what do you say to people that would say these are just lofty, aspirational targets?
I have had a few people challenge me on that, and I'll say, let's just talk in 2035. Because mm-hmm. I think, frankly, by the time you see what we have in 2025, where you see where we're at in 2030, I think we'll still be in this decade where people believe it's a reality.
So GM had a real jump on the industry with vertically integrating into U.S. domestic source batteries at scale.
Yes.
What else helps differentiate GM in this increasingly crowded EV landscape?
I think also the fact that, people talk about just starting, many companies right now are just starting to do a dedicated EV platform mm-hmm. or other companies that have one. I don't think it has the breadth of portfolio that we can take off of, or that we have with Ultium. The fact that we have a family of motors that allows us, again, to plug and play. the wireless control system of the battery, and just we really have made the whole Ultium platform, as we know we're going to have breakthroughs from a battery chemistry perspective, that we can continue to integrate those into Ultium without starting over. So I think there's a lot in our battery technology, our battery controls technology, and we really looked at what are the key areas of the vehicle that we really need to control to have technology leadership, IP control, et cetera.
How important is it for the United States to be a leader in the global battery race?
When you look at climate change and the importance of electric vehicles, having battery leadership, having the manufacturing capability within the country, I think is vitally important. And the conversations we've had with the administration, I think they really recognize that and have applauded the work of General Motors to bring that work here.
What was the first car you ever owned?
Well, that was the Chevy Chevette. I had a red Chevy Chevette with roll-up windows. It was the most basic vehicle I think even made at that time, but I could afford it and pay my way through school. So that's what I drove. How
did you first get into cars?
My dad worked for General Motors for 39 years, and he was a die maker. And so he would talk about his craft. He also, every now and then at that point in time, he would bring home a new vehicle. And my brother and I would climb through it, and we'd understand every inch of it. And so I think that's what started to get me excited. And I get letters from customers that talk to me about, here is Tom, our Tahoe. And, this is how Tom has been with our family through thick and thin. And that makes me so happy. So I think vehicles have a special place in people's lives, and we get to be a part of it.
Yeah, when we name our vehicles like our children.
Exactly.
Is GM a tech company or an auto company?
I think we're an auto tech company. I think, we have always been a hardware company, but if you look at all the software on the vehicle today, hundreds of millions of lines of code, really the vehicle is becoming, and we started rolling it out in 2019, is becoming a software platform. So I see this as a huge opportunity to leverage the vehicle as a software platform. So I'm kind of doing a new term, and it's auto tech.
So how do you get GM stock to be valued as an auto tech stock?
Well, I think we have to keep demonstrating the opportunity that we have to grow. From a software perspective, from an electric vehicle perspective, from a subscriptions perspective, from adjacent businesses, like we've talked about OnStar Insurance. When you think about it, this is an opportunity for us to disrupt traditional insurance, because you can't buy a vehicle without proving you have insurance. So we're right there when that's happening. And we also believe, because of the information we anonymize and get from the vehicle, we have better insights into how to provide premiums. So we think we can offer better insurance, that's more economical.
I think Warren Buffett once described the iPhone as the most valuable piece of real estate in the world, just those, 10 or 15 square inches of real estate. But the automobile is a computer on wheels. It's encrusted with sensors and creates data and all sorts of revenue and business model opportunities. Tell me how GM is capitalizing that and the skills and capabilities that you're putting together to build that part of the revenue model.
Well, I think there's a tremendous opportunity, and that's where I see a significant amount of General Motors growth coming as we move forward. I mean, we already have experience with OnStar, and I sometimes think people aren't familiar with how important OnStar is already, and the number of subscriptions we have and the insights that we get. We've done research to understand customers, what they're willing to pay for, and this idea that your vehicle, right now you get your vehicle, you drive off the lot, and it kind of, that's the most valuable it will be. But, we already have done things, for instance, with Maps Plus, where we've been able to download software and go back and backcast it and make the vehicle better than when the person bought it. I think then when you leverage the data that you can get from the vehicle, I mentioned earlier, whether it's in insurance or many different applications, I do think the vehicle, maybe a little bigger than 15 square inches, but I think is the next platform that we can provide tremendous value for the customer, and that value will be growth for General Motors.
Mary, the success you've achieved over the arc of your career is an especially meaningful example to women. When you reflect back on your own journey and maybe some gender bias that you might have encountered along the way. How far have we come, and how much more needs to be done?
Well, I think, I sit here today as the chair and CEO of General Motors because of the focus on diversity and inclusion that was at General Motors 20, 25 years ago. I mean, just full stop. I wouldn't be here today without that commitment. I also, again, I've had the great privilege to work with so many wonderful people who invested in me, helped, pulled me aside and gave me sometimes very critical feedback to become a better leader and better person. Having said that, we still have more work to do. At General Motors, we're working very hard because we want to be the most inclusive company in the world, but we want to share that title with everyone because that's the world, we think we all want to be a part of. But to me, it becomes very simple, is can you come to work and be your true self and bring your best self to work? And as an individual, it's all about how I make you feel. How do I make people feel around me? Because if everybody feels valued, welcome, respected, there's trust, you're going to have an inclusive environment.
So over half of GM's board are women. We worked with our ESG team at Morgan Stanley to do a company screening for U.S. companies with market caps of greater than $50 billion, where over half of their board were women. There are only 3 companies that made the list. And of the 3, GM is the most valuable company. So what is it about your diverse board, and how does your diverse board help better prepare GM for this unbelievably transformational and challenging time for the industry?
We've had a process ever since I've been in this role, working with our lead director who just retired, Tim Solso, and Pat Russo, who chairs our governance committee, where we always have a skills matrix and looking ahead of what experiences and skills do we need on our board to support General Motors' future. And I think that was very important. And then, we've kind of demonstrated by, as we looked for new candidates, we always required a diverse slate. And when I look at the talent on General Motors' board, and believe me, we have a hard-working board at General Motors. I can't tell you a big strategic decision we made that didn't become better because of input from our board.
So it takes a lot fewer people to make an EV versus today's internal combustion engine cars. What's your message to the worker on the line?
Well, I think a couple things. If you look at propulsion system, that is true. But when you look at, for instance, the complexity of the body structure to lightweight to make the vehicle more efficient, that tends to take more labor. When you look at all the features and functionality in a vehicle, that tends to take a little bit more labor. And then when you look at the fact that we've brought battery manufacturing to this country, and there's other things we're doing internally that wouldn't be in this country, that's where our message is. Gerald Johnson, who runs our global manufacturing and sustainability, and myself or Mark or whoever, as we visit our plants, we talk to them about, we all want you to be part of this journey. And if we're successful in growing the company, that's what we all have to be dedicated to make sure everyone's a part of it.
This is the last of my prepared questions. What do you do when you're not working?
Well, I'm in this new phase of my life because my 2 children are both now graduated from college. Up until now, my life was about working and going to my children's activities. I consider myself a hockey mom, a soccer mom, a cross-country mom, a lacrosse mom. And I loved it. And, I really feel I was able to, do my job well at General Motors and, be a big part of our children's life. My husband and I are both dedicated to that. But now I'm just starting to take up some new activities, and I'm even trying golf, which is a little scary because I'm not very good.
I think as an engineer, you'll figure it out. We can save that for another interview, though.
Okay.
Mary, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule. These are historic times. I feel very privileged to have the chance to talk about your business and your vision and your example. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for coming to Detroit and being in our home.